to take this. Oh, no. You're too. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 37. Tan me dharma britam shreshta Stanam nideshtumahasi Yatraiva niyato vatsya Atishtam stenushasanam. Word for word. Tat, therefore, me, dharmamrityam, of all the protectors of religion, Shrestha, O chief, Stanam, place, Nideshtum, fix, Ahasi, may you do so, Yatra, where, Eva, certainly, Nityataha, always, Vatsye, can reside, Atishtan, permanently situated, Te, your, Anusasanam, under your rule. Translation. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. Translation, please repeat. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. Purport. The personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity because the king refrained from killing a person who surrendered unto him. A surrendered soul should be given all protection even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Tan me dharma britam shreshta stanam nideshtum ahasi yatra evani yato vatsya atistam ste nusasanam. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. So, Kali, of course, is very cunning, very clever. Generally, those who are attackers, they like to attack, but then when they come under attack, or I was saying the other day, giving the example of the dogs. The dogs, especially very vicious dogs, they come and attack. But if someone stronger comes and beats on them, so the nature, it swings. Those in the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, their nature just swings, very erratic. It can be one thing one moment, the next second they're another thing. The next second, erratic personalities. Very much symptomatic of the mode of ignorance and mode of passion. Just like, the drunk. Two friends are drunk, they become drunk, they're all friendly 1 minute, and the next moment they're killing each other. Mode of ignorance. Effective mode of ignorance. So, really, in the material world, it is not a safe place, because even your so-called friend, because of the effect of the modes of nature, can become your enemy in a second. And those who like to attack, they're attackers. They attack in various ways through their mind. You can just be attacking through your mind. You don't even have to say anything. You're looking at someone. Giving the snake eyes or something. You can be attacking just with your mind, looking around. Oh, everyone gets the vibe. This person's a real attacker. Just looking around the room. And of course, the next thing is the mind. Generally, when you're contemplating something long enough and deep enough, then it comes out verbally. Thinking, feeling, and willing, the activities of the mind. So you're thinking about, and then it'll come out verbally, and then it'll come physically also. So they like to give, they like to attack, but they don't like to be attacked. So that's generally for those in the mode of ignorance. Kshatriyas, of course, are another level. They're more Rajaguna and also Sattvaguna. They're another, they accept the challenge. But they're very dutiful. They're doing it out of duty. It's not, it shouldn't be personally motivated. Just like Maharaj Parikshit. It was not personally motivated. He had never met the personality of Kali. He just happened to come across this man dressed as a king, beating the cow and beating the bull. He didn't know him. So his action was not personally, it wasn't contemplated for, I really hate this person. I'm contemplating for a long time, therefore I'm going to do something. This is generally the situation for the materialists. Materialists are like that. Because they're, again, under the modes of nature, acting on us. We're driven. We've got no control practically. We've placed ourselves in that, and that's because we desire like that. Why are you, Prabhupada one time he said like that, he said, why are you under the ignorance? Because you want to be. You want to be there. Therefore, Krishna has made all the arrangement under his external energy, under the gunas and so on. So you're there. Of course, you may not like, once you go there, you may not like it so much. That's another thing. Quite often we make decisions, thinking it'll be good, or that this is what I want. But when you get there, then you don't like it so much, but it's hard to get out once you're in. Virtually impossible to get out. You will be, you'll be placed in this situation again and again and again. Only when someone more elevated personality can come and help you get out, because by ourselves are very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. So how you get that help, whether directly from someone, whether you read something or something, somehow or other, the living entity by himself cannot get out of the entanglement of the gunas, the three. So this is very important. So Maharaj Parikshit, he wasn't ready to punish Kali out of personal motivation, hatred or envy, lust, greed, whatever. No, it was all duty. Now and as I was been saying in my classes, that these Kshatriyas, the kings of the past, were very much trained what to do in every situation. Someone is doing like that, they're trained. They know what action to take. They also take advice from others if the situation allows it. Sometimes you've got to make a decision on the spot. And so these kings like Maharaj Parikshit are just trained to know what to do. So all right, here's the situation. Kali dressed, first of all, he was posing himself as someone he was not. And this would be very bad if he allowed it to continue. He had to do something about that. But more serious was that he was beating the cow and the bull. He was posing yourself as someone you're not. And that can create all sorts of disturbance. Just like I can put up a sign, Dr. Ramai Swami, and advertise for business. But, I'm not a doctor. But I pose myself. So, if people come thinking that yes, you have to do, take this, take that, it can wreak havoc. An unqualified person, you may be even thinking genuinely, although hard to imagine, but you may genuinely be thinking, oh, you want to help people. But if you're not qualified, you can make it worse. There's one saying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to quote all the time. He said, the path of destruction is paved with good intentions. Path of destruction. So you may have thought to help, just like someone has had an injury. Oh, I'll help. Run over there, turn them over, do this, do that. Oh, no, you just made it worse. You just cause him to bleed out more. No, you don't move them. So trained people know those sort of things. Of course, if there's no one around, that's another thing. But still, you have to be very... But there are many, and I think Vaishnavi brought up this point about the cheating. People like to cheat. They like to pose themselves as someone they're not. So that's not very, very good. So there are many, Prabhupada used to comment on this as far as spiritualists. They pose themselves as some big knowledgeable personality, and I think this and I think that. As soon as you say, I think, and I remember that one time in Melbourne, we were walking with Prabhupada in the botanical gardens, and Prabhupada asked, they've got all the plants and everything like that, and Prabhupada just said, what's that plant there? And someone said, oh, I think it's no, Prabhupada. Right? Prabhupada said, you think, you don't know. You think? Yeah, I think, Prabhupada. You think? He said, go check what it says on the label. Oh, Prabhupada, I was wrong. It's actually this plant. See? You thought. You didn't know. So he was making a point of it just to illustrate a philosophical premise that, well, actually, before you speak, you should know something. Don't speculate. Because if you just speculate, then, some people, generally, a lot of people are very simple-minded. So if someone who appears to be an authority, they're saying something, the tendency is to follow it. Yes, take this medicine and take it then it may end up killing. We had to deal with a situation many years ago at New Nandagram where someone was giving advice, medical advice to the devotees, and they were following fast for 30 days or whatever he was saying. Can't remember now what it was. But, he was saying all these things, and then one girl was actually quite ill, and so the devotees were going to this other devotee and was giving trying to be helpful, but actually made her worse. She ended up in hospital just on the brink of leaving her body by following what he was telling her to follow. So we had to chastise that devotee and say, look, you can't propose yourself as knowing and then give advice, because it can be catastrophic. So let the qualified persons, you can pick a field whoever you want to go to, as long as they're qualified persons. They've been trained. They've been trained. We're not, Prabhupada used to say many times, I'm training you, you're untrained. I'm training you how to become nice devotees of Krishna. Hari Suri told me one time when he was taking the salt in to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada every day, he liked fresh salt. He didn't like old salt. He liked fresh salt. And so it was left, generally when he had his meal that there was left, there was a little container of salt and whatever, pepper and it was like that. And Prabhupada expected it to be changed, and it just left there and then used the same thing the next day. So Hari Suri, he was Prabhupada's servant and cook. He brought it in, and so he said, bring some fresh salt. So he went there and get the fresh salt, and he was carrying some other things. And as he was carrying the salt, his fingertip just went in the salt. Prabhupada was looking, watching. So then he thought, well, Prabhupada, it's not, Prabhupada doesn't like to be kept waiting when he's ready to eat. He likes to. So he thought, well, I'll just give it to him. And then Prabhupada just looked at him. He said, "You are mlecha. You dirty fingernail in the salt, and you want me to take that thing? I have been training you, but you are not hearing anything. So he was using an example, to train his disciples. Sometimes he would say, don't mind, I'm your guru, so I have to correct you. I have to correct you. Someone else who's not, they shouldn't just appoint themselves as the correctors. This is mentioned by Prabhupada in one purport in the Bhagavad Gita. If you're not in the position, someone who's the natural, the father, the mother, the teacher, these are natural educators and guiders of their children, of their students, the guru to the disciple. So it's not for everyone to appoint themselves. I'm going to come in and tell everyone what to do. I remember years ago, we had one devotee leave because and then later on he came back and said, you were doing well, what happened? There was too many people telling me what to do. Too many people. I'd go walk over here and this one, oh no, you're doing it wrong, you got to do it. And walk over there and no, that's not right, you got to do it this way. There's too many people. I just had enough. So they left. So don't, of course if some catastrophe is going on, you may have to step in and do something. It's an emergency catastrophe, even though you're not the designated person, you're not the teacher or the father or the mother or the guru or the elder or something like that. You're not the but there's some catastrophe, all right. Emergency, all right. But, generally speaking, don't just go in there because you can confuse, especially someone new. You can confuse or make a situation very bad also because you don't know the actual background, the whole situation. You don't know. So then just be restrained. Just be restrained as far as that's concerned. So getting back to the point, Maharaj Parikshit, he was very restrained. He was angry, but his anger was used in the service of his duty. One has to be very trained to be able to do that. Because anger is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna as one of the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. Lust, greed and anger, these three. Lust, greed, we talked about greed the other day. Greed, this greed principle, everyone's so greedy these days, and nothing's ever enough. Never satisfied. You see, people in the mode of ignorance, materials in the mode of ignorance especially, and especially in the mode of passion also, whatever they get, there's not enough. I think I said the other day, they did a survey of all the richest people in the world. Well, what do you say? What more do you want? Most of the answers came, I want more money. They're billionaires, but they want more. So they're never satisfied. So that's the difference between materialist and spiritual. The materialist is very hard to satisfy. They need a million things before they're going to be satisfied. But the spiritual are very easily satisfied. The spiritualist, they're just easygoing. They're happy. Prabhupada one time he gave the definition of Vaishnava. Vaishnava is one, they're happy just to chant Hare Krishna, and if there's some service to do, they're very glad to do it. They're they're very straightforward. Very straightforward. They deal very honestly, very straightforwardly, not duplicitous. Duplicitous is another symptom of mode of ignorance and mode of passion. Duplicitousness, duplicity. You're saying one thing, but actually you're thinking another thing. Or you're posing yourself as the friend. Oh, you're my friend, and and then you're sticking the knife in simultaneously. When I was a student, when none of us had a car because we're poor. But one of our, he wasn't really a friend. None of us actually liked him, but he had a car. So all of a sudden we became his friends. You see? We became his friends. Oh, you're so nice. Behind his back. When are you going to get a car? So when I have to go with this idiot. Right, so this is the symptomatic. There's so many symptoms so we as devotees, we're beginning devotees, so sometimes we also exhibit these types of qualities. As we go along, we're mixed, mishra, we're mixed devotees. We're not on the top, unalloyed pure. They don't manifest any of these duplicitousness and envy, greed, lust. And going back to the point of anger, the anger can be used in the service of Krishna, but it's not recommended for beginners. And Prabhupada qualifies it. He said, not really. For beginners, they should try to just subdue it. Don't get, when you're getting angry, it usually comes after frustration, anger after frustration. One of the Nessian activities created by Lord Brahma. You get frustrated and you're going to get angry. So, why do they get angry? Try to figure it out. What do they get frustrated? Then I'm going to get angry. So you have to try to control your anger, and the best way, of course, more chanting. I remember Jayadharma, our godbrother, he was in Perth with Prabhupada, and he went to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, lately I'm feeling very disturbed. And Prabhupada said, are you chanting all your rounds? 16 rounds? Yeah, yes, Prabhupada. No, actually, Prabhupada didn't say 16. Are you chanting all your rounds? He said, yes, Prabhupada, I'm chanting 16 rounds every day. Well, I said 16 rounds minimum. Now chant more. Chant more. All right, you're chanting your rounds, you're feeling disturbed, chant more. Do more japa, do more kirtan, chanting, associate more, do more. I think I've said before, I was giving a class in Adelaide one time at the end, talking about our chanting, our process of yoga and meditation is chanting. And then one lady at the end, she said, what do you do for your meditation? The whole class I've been explaining about it. Anyway, she said, what do you do for your meditation? I said, we chant Hare Krishna. That's our primary meditation focus. But what else do you do? I said, we chant more Hare Krishna. There's no need to do anything else. Everything is contained in that one mantra. It seems incredible. Wait a minute, there's only 3 words here. Krishna, Rama and Hare. Wait, everything is in there. Look. Yeah, the whole universe, everything comes from that. Sound vibration. Sound vibrations are very powerful. We know, even materialists know. They've got these weapons that are sound weapons, right? I think some ships have like sound weapons that can break people's eardrums and do all sorts of things. They got them on warships. I think I've read before. They got them. So sound is very powerful. That material sound. Spiritual sound is another thing. The material sound originates from the spiritual, and when the spiritual sound is there in the mantra, all is encapsulated in the bija, in the seeds. The Hare is and the Krishna and the Ram. Everything is there in those. It's incredible for the materialist to understand, even for devotees. But really everything is there. So even some devotees feel they need to do some other things, some other practices to get to the perfection. You don't. You just need to do the chanting. You just perfect your chanting. This is very, very important. So we're beginning devotees. We're going along the path. We sometimes feel greedy. We sometimes feel angry. We're lusty. All sorts of things. But we have to stick on the path. But more advanced personalities, they can use these things in Krishna's service. Lobha, greed. One can, Radharani and the gopis are sometimes described as being greedy for the love of Krishna. So there's a spiritual and the material aspect to it. So these things, greedy for Krishna. Crying, just like crying. Someone's crying. So crying can be spiritual or material. You can cry for Krishna. That is a spiritual. You're thinking Krishna. That elevates you. Crying, for just mundane loss or whatever, that's another thing. And that's temporary. But crying for Krishna is eternal. Sometimes they're crying, sometimes they're laughing, sometimes the hairs are standing. These are ecstatic symptoms. So the difference between material and spiritual things, all these things are explained in the Shastra. Here we see that Maharaj Parikshit is using his anger to punish Kali, because of what he was doing. First of all, dressed as a king, proposing himself as something he was not. And then now, the more serious thing, look, on top of that, he's beating the cow, symbolizing Mother Earth, and the bull symbolizing religious and spiritual principles. So he's destroying these things. These things are very important. Now we're coming to the point that Kali is very clever. Generally, these types of people who are, of course, Kali is empowered to do what he needs to do, but he also symbolizes people who are attacking, got an attacking mood about them, and generally they're very cunning. They're very sharp on that side of things. To be insultive to people, insulting people. This is described. Another symptom, the mode of being. You're insulting. You're attacking people. You insult people. It almost like drips off the tongue. It comes second nature to them. Their whole life they've been doing it. And so to insult someone, to attack someone, it just comes automatically. And to be cunning, to get what you want at any cost, it comes very second nature because they're in the mode of ignorance. So we see this reflected in Kali, very cunning. All right, he's going to kill me, or he's not killed me, but all right, because I've surrendered, I'll surrender. He knew what to do. In one sense, you could call it, he knew how to play the system. He wasn't going to go up against the Maharaj Parikshit. He was going to lose that battle. So then he knew, I got to surrender. So then surrender, and that means, he was intelligent enough to know, that means if I surrender, he's got to accept my surrender. Because that is the duty of the Kshatriyas. He's got to accept it. So then very cleverly he's asking all these things. You can, all right, you can, what did he say in there? Therefore, a friend of your religion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifice. In other words, you can't stay anywhere here. All right, you're surrendered. I won't punish you. I won't kill you for what you were going to kill the cow and the bull. But you can't stay anywhere here. Go someplace where all these things, you can't do any of these things. But where will I go? Even if I go somewhere, I'll just, I'll be in fear of you. So therefore he starts to ask, give me some place, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. Not only is he asking for some designated area, he's asking that area is protected by Maharaj Parikshit's government. So Prabhupada actually mentions, you'll read tomorrow especially Prabhupada mentioned the purport there, maybe some area can be designated, but even those who are following irreligious practice in that area, they have to follow under some sort of rules and regulations. It's not just a free-for-all. Prabhupada makes it very clear in the next purport. All right, okay, we weren't going to allow these very heinous and atrocious and murderous, very sinful activities anywhere here. All right, but because you've surrendered, and because there are some who will go over here, we'll allow it over there in a remote area or somewhere like that. But you can't come over here. You have to stay there. And when you're over there, you have to follow these rules, not free for all. So this is explained by Prabhupada. So therefore, Maharaj Kali, of course, with the decline of the monarchs, powerful kings like Parikshit, then Kali was able to go outside of that area, and now he's infiltrated everywhere. Let's see. So, but with the position of Maharaj Parikshit, the powerful monarch, there was no question of that. So the protection. Now Prabhupada talks about protection. Protecting the king. Someone who surrenders to the king, even someone's an enemy. And this is the Kshatriya Dharma. They have to give them, all right, no one else, okay, they've surrendered. And even materially speaking, if someone, there's some criminal, and the police come, and the criminal's caught by the police. He surrenders to the police. Now, if someone else who may be very upset, the shop owner or whoever it is, that criminal surrendered to the police, they're not going to allow him to attack the criminal who's just surrendered. The shop owner is really angry with you, he's going to come over with a knife and stab him. Police aren't going to know. He's in our custody now. He's surrendered. So they're not going to allow someone to act like that. So similarly, someone who surrendered to the king, all right, he'll protect. No one else can do anything to you. You're under my protection now. So this is an enemy. So someone who's, he regarded as an enemy of religiosity and just an enemy of the state, and therefore an enemy of the king. But still, because he surrendered, I'm reminded of the story of Jarasandha. Jara. Many of you know this story, especially the older devotees. Jarasandha was a king of Magadha, and which I think is like Bihar now. And his father was Maharaj Brihadratha. Now, Maharaj Brihadratha had married exactly look-alike twin daughters, but they couldn't have any children. So they tried everything. They couldn't have any children. One sage came, Rishi Kosika came. He said he infused a mango with the power to procreate. So they give you a queen is this mango. And so therefore the king said, well, I'm married to I've got two queens. So he divided the mango in half and gave to the queen. And then they gave birth, but the baby boy was delivered. One queen had one half, and the other queen had the other half. Right. So and the two halves were hideous. And so the king said, "Oh, this is horrible," you know. And they throw these two halves of the lifeless body into the woods. And so at that time, one Rakshasi came there. Her name was Jara. She found the two halves and she thought, "Oh, this is a nice meal, and I'm going to eat these things." And so she said, "Oh, put them together; it'll be bigger mouthful." So when she put them together, all of a sudden they joined up. Right? They joined up, still lifeless, joined up. So then she saw that it became a little baby boy. So even she was a Rakshasi, she couldn't eat the baby boy. She delivered the boy to the king. So the king was overwhelmed. Oh, look at this! So the boy was transformed, but still lifeless. And they called Rishi Kosika again, and he came, and by his mystic power, he was able to bring the little baby boy to life. And he was named after Jarasandha, who was torn apart like that. So Jarasandha had come. And he is so powerful, he had conquered all the kings of the neighbouring areas. He had conquered everyone. And he had captured one elephant called Valyapida, who was a very powerful, there's a whole story about this elephant, how he was cursed, he was from the higher planets. Anyway, he was cursed. Anyway, so he captured him, and this elephant was strong. They had to kind of like try to control him. And he was like they used him Jarasandha brought him under his control, and he was used in battles. So Jarasandha thought that I'm going to attack Kamsa. He was on a war campaign. And he came and he was going to attack Kamsa. Kamsa, in the meantime, was having a big festival on the other side of the Jamuna. And there was all sorts of things going on. And so Jarasandha had camped with his army on the other side. And they chained up this elephant. So powerful, they had to chain him up. They had to run amok and kill everyone. So, but at night, the elephant broke free. And stampeded, killing so many soldiers, went on the other side and ran amok into the festival of Kamsa. So Kamsa became very angry with this elephant who had just, come in. He picked him up. He was so strong and powerful, he stopped him in his tracks, twirled him around and threw him back over the other side. He landed right at the feet of Jarasandha. So Jarasandha thought, oof, geez, my previous plan was to go and attack Kamsa, but he just threw my secret weapon, the powerful elephant, right at my feet. Better not fight with him, better make an alliance. This is another tactic the Kshatriyas use. If you can't win something, make an alliance. So he offered his daughters, Asti and Prapti, to become the wives of Kamsa. So therefore there was an alliance. And when Krishna and Balaram later on came to Mathura and Krishna, of course, killed Kamsa, then Asti and Prapti became widows. So Jarasandha, and they cried to their father, but Jarasandha at that point became the enemy of Krishna and attacked Mathura so many times like that. You know the story. So later on, when Maharaj Yudhishthira was doing the Rajasuya sacrifice, all the kings had to subordinate themselves, and they knew Jarasandha was going to be a problem. And so they decided to go. Krishna and Arjuna and Bhimsen went there in the disguise of the Brahmins. So they went there posing as Brahmins, and Jarasandha, when he looked at them, kind of suspected something wasn't right. They didn't look like Brahmanas, but nevertheless he thought they might have been enemies, and some were telling him like that. But nevertheless, they'd come and they were Brahmanas, and he respected them, even though he suspected they were enemies. And he just brought them in. So this is just the code of the Kshatriyas. Later on, of course, they revealed themselves to be Krishna and Arjuna and Bhimsena. And then, of course, Krishna challenged Jarasandha to a duel. Jarasandha said, you're not worthy of my fighting with you. And Arjuna, he's not my equal. But Bhimsena, I'll challenge Bhimsena. He's my equal. So then you know that story, how that. And Jarasandha was good. But nevertheless, the point is about the code of the Kshatriyas and giving protection. So the king gave protection, and Prabhupada talks about what to speak of Krishna's protection. Krishna gives protection. I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Savaranam parityagya mam ekam saranam ham tam savapapebi moksha shami masucha. Abandon all varieties, just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So here Prabhupada explains in the purport that Krishna described all sorts of systems about yoga, about meditation, about sense control, about detachment, all different systems. But in the end, he told Arjuna, well, you can do all those, because earlier on he says, well, I've explained everything, you have to decide what you want to do. But then he reiterates, actually, I've explained all things, but if you just surrender unto me, no need to follow. There's another verse, Vedishu, Jagyushu, Tapasu, Chaiva, Danashu, Yat Punya, Palam Patishtam, Atiti Tatsavam, Vidam, Yogi Param Stanam, Pachichadyam. One who follows the path of devotional service centered to Krishna, it is to be considered. He's not the loser from not performing the Vedic ritual, Vedishu, Jagyushu, performing the Danishu, giving in charity, performing tapasya. He is not actually he gains more. He gains more. So Krishna says that you can do all these things, and some people are going to be, their nature is going to gravitate them towards doing these other things. But really, you just need to surrender. If you just surrender to me, you will surpass all these other things. And very easy. Just surrender to me, and I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Of course, that's not the goal of becoming perfect in spiritual life. The karma. We get our karma. That's not the goal, but of course the karma can create all sorts of disturbances on the path of devotional service, and so if one is trying to go ahead at advancing themselves spiritually, so much karma is happening to you. So Krishna just takes that away. You'll be free from that. So just surrender. So one can follow other processes to be free themselves from karma, or one can surrender. It's very easy. Now, the higher goal is to develop Krishna Prem, love of God. So one who meditates on me, I'm the swift, the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Ananya, what is it? In the 12th chapter, isn't it? I'm the swift deliverer. Ananyashitam satalam yomam smartin. I forget that verse now, it'll come to me. But Krishna describes how he is the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death, and one goes back home, back to Godhead, and develops the love of God. So that is the ultimate goal, and that is the protection that Krishna gives to his devotee, even if the enemy comes. But what to speak of devotees? The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and resultant reactions of sinful activities. So Krishna is so kind, it's very easy. That one just surrenders, one just follows nicely, and there's all sorts of instructions. If you can't meditate all the time, then just follow some particular injunctions and regulations like that, and then you can think of Krishna more. And then in the end, if you're just thinking of Krishna constantly, go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, I'll read this again. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. We've got a few minutes for questions. Yes, Prabhu.
So much, we know Krishna's super soul is present everywhere and all-knowing. So when we hear that Kali is residing where all these sinful activities are going on, there must be some sort of omniscient power to his ability, like he knows, I guess, how to understand.
You're talking about Kali?
Yeah, Kali is residing in these places, but how to understand does that?
He has power. He is empowered to perform his service. As I said, he's a deva, and he's empowered, so he can go anywhere, and he influences others. So if it's not going too well, if things are going too good in an area, he can personally go there and start influencing the situation. He's not like Paramatma. He's not on that level, but he can. He's empowered to do all sorts of things. You know, some people talk about the devil. You know, the Christians talk about the devil and coming and influencing, and they're kind of a little bit similar to that. Can appear in different ways. Maybe they're referring to the Kali, who can actually appear at any place and start influencing, and even himself doing in some sort of guise. You know, so I know the Christians talk about the devil can appear in any form and do things. You know, so Kali is like that also. He can do it like that, and that he's empowered by the system. He's not going on outside of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of God. It's meant to do that because, as I said the other day, people have gross desires that they want fulfilled, so therefore all this atmosphere has to be arranged. Does that answer your question?
Just a comment, that this world we're in is a little bit like that projection zone. Krishna puts us 1/4 of the whole manifestation of everything, right? And 3/4 is the spiritual realm. So we're under that protection of Krishna, under certain laws, we choose to obey them here, then we can get a sort of a release, bit of a hall pass to go back to the spiritual world. Similar parallel with how Kali was put in a certain area, he's requesting some jurisdiction. We're in this material world as a jurisdiction in the same way. We've taken, we're put there. Anyway.
It's a matter of going from one jurisdiction to another. You know, you can go from the bad neighbourhood to the good neighbourhood. You're in a real bad neighbourhood, you know, and you know someone in a good area who can line it up for you. You know, you're out of there quick. He's got the money, he's got the area, he's got connections. Bang, it happens. You know, there's that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and quite often. So it's true, you know. If you surrender to Krishna, he can just pull you right out of the bad jurisdiction. Now you're under the jurisdiction of the Maya, the kingdom. We used to talk about in Brahma Seva, the kingdom of Maya, so she's got a jurisdiction, but and you can't get out. She's too powerful. But if you know the one who is actually the Lord and Master of the Maya, then you can get out. So you have to switch from one jurisdiction to the other jurisdiction. And it's so subtle that it can be simultaneously going on almost like in a parallel universe. You're in the kingdom of Maya, but actually you're aloof from it, you know, under the shelter of Krishna, in the spiritual aspect of it. Actually everything is spiritual, ultimately. It's coming from that one. So it's just a transformation of the energy. So you can be in the one energy, but be under the direction of the more internal potency of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So one last question. We've got 1 minute left to go.
Thank you, Maharaj. So you were explaining that all of us need somebody to help us to get out of this ocean of managing to all the souls in this life. And in the past, Prabhupada insisted a lot of the text, the books that are the main source. Do you think they have changed because of the age of Kali has degraded? You think as the books less book distribution and book are less, maybe not the right method right now, or do you think it's still as powerful as it used to be?
I'm just trying to understand your question. You're talking about the book distribution?
Yes, Prabhupada's book. Yes.
Yeah, and
I'm trying to figure out if these have changed because of the age of Kali has advanced. More.
Oh, can it change?
No, yes,
oh.
Can it be less like when
of course.
came was the holy name and Prashadam.
Yeah. And the books as well.
Yeah. So now. Is the books still as powerful to be in this age, affect
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, primarily the holy name of the Lord, but at the manifest, there's the book Bhagavatam, the person Bhagavatam, the holy name of the Lord. All these aspects of the personality of Godhead, and so by Prabhupada would very much emphasize. One time when Prabhupada said, even if you touch someone, if you're distributing these Bhagavatams, it is the personality of God, it is in the form of his literature, in the sound vibration of the words there. So even if you touch someone, they're purified. You just touch it, even if they didn't even take it. I remember for a long time after that, when we were out in book distribution, we made sure we at least touched them. Ding, 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 ding. And because Prabhupada had told us directly that. So yes, of course, all these things are helpful. Chanting, spreading the chanting, prasadam distribution. Prabhupada said the two primary things are chanting and prasadam distribution. But book distribution is also very powerful because there are some, it affects, it can purify the heart, the intellect, and cause someone to actually take up directly the path of devotional service. That's very, very powerful. I mean, we don't know. You're giving a book to one person, but another person may read it. So we don't know exactly who is going to. That is the divine arrangement. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.